All right, so we're here to talk about some differences in addiction. This is a versus video, so it's male versus female. Take into account that Corey and I are not professionals in any way. We aren't licensed anything really. So the statistics that we've found have come from different websites and different areas, and we'll share those along the way as we talk about the differences that we found scientifically between men and women and their addictions. You also have to remember that studies done in the last 100 years have been mostly about men.
It wasn't until I think 1990 that they started including women in these studies. That's a significant amount of time that women were just not included in this.
Right. That includes the biases that science has had for a long time against women, and should show the strides that society has made to include ladies in this research that is really imperative to understanding what goes on with addicts and their addiction. In these studies, we find that the distinctions between men and women are made mostly between biological and sociological differences in the world today. So we kind of took some notes on most of the statistics that we have, and a lot of these come from from a couple of Harvard studies. We got one from, is it addiction.com?
Addictioncenter.com.
Addictioncenter.com. And they separated these from susceptibility to relapse. So like whether or not men and women differ in the way that they handle their addiction, and then whether or not they stay addicted. Starting with susceptibility. Okay, so I've got it separated on my sheet here between men and women. You can't see it, but I've got it all written down, chicken scratch. And under this particular website, they say that men are more likely to become addicts, and that women are usually, if they are already addicted to something, usually stick around with that substance abuse a lot longer. So, yeah.
Well, and it's also going into that, men are more likely to drink alcohol or use drugs for peer pressure or to fit in socially, whereas women are more likely to get started, maybe taking, a happy pill that was prescribed from a doctor, and then, over time they get addicted to it. We found that a lot of these studies showed that men just want to fit in and women want to stop being an emotional mess.
Sure. And this is true. Remember that these studies were done, well, not these particular ones, but in the past, studies were mostly done on men. So you would have assumed at the time that men were the only ones doing, bad things. But it was also true, and it is more true today, that men are more prone to alcohol, and women were more prone to opioids.
Yes.
and stimulants that doctors would prescribe to them so that they wouldn't be so emotional. Okay, so in our study of the differences in men and women in addiction, Corey and I read two different studies. Like mine was done by the addictioncenter.com. Corey's was a Harvard study.
Yes.
And they did not say the same thing whatsoever. So addictioncenter.com says that men were less likely to relapse and that they had longer periods of abstinence. Then it said that women were more likely to relapse, and they also had intense cravings. The cravings were much worse. So you could say that stems from a biological difference, but Corey's study said what?
Yeah, the Harvard study, it showed that within a 12-step program, that men were less likely to kind of just follow the program through and to be very productive in that community, whereas women were more likely to just jump in and do it and continue to do it. And so that showed that men were more likely to relapse than women, because women were more focused on finding out those emotional problems and learning how to deal with everyday life and what to do if something came up, whereas men, and I think even this is a big difference in men and women, even if they aren't addicts or alcoholics, is men are taught to suppress their feelings. We don't talk about it, just push it aside and everything's okay. Whereas women, we just feel everything. And, if we don't pull it out immediately, it just bubbles up and explodes.
Yeah. It sounded like it laid out an idea that said that women through a program like a 12-step program, learn confidence, right? And they have a lot of tools that they can figure out themselves. Like, it kind of stemmed to say that women tend to figure out their emotions and learn to work with their emotions and communicate, whereas men needed a 12-step program because they needed to have a line-by-line program that they could work with. Like, we needed to stay in the program. Women were more independent and could do it themselves. Lost for guys, just saying. Kind of goes to show that at one time, it may have been that men were the top dogs when it came to using drugs, doing alcohol. But we also find that today, the gender gaps between who uses and who doesn't, it's level now. You know, the rate of women, you know, drinking at younger ages and taking pills are catching up to the men, and actually at an alarming rate.
Right. I read a study that showed that there was, in a period of like 6 years, from I think it was 2010 to 2016, there was a 596% jump in opioid-related overdose deaths in women, and the men had jumped up like 200%. Either way, those numbers are far too high.
Yeah, it's kind of insane to think about, you know, like who's using which at a higher rate, and to see women come up to the same level as men. And as time changes, we have more availability, you know. We have more interaction with the media, with, you know, pop culture and other things. I mean, I don't want to say this the wrong way, but if that WAP video has been a part of your playlist, you should probably delete that. Just saying, the numbers don't lie. Children between the ages of, I think it was like 11 and 13, are drinking at a higher level than they ever have, using stimulants and opioids to make them feel better about themselves, you know, and that's more prevalent right now in young women than it is in men. In our personal experience, and Corey and I actually kind of differed on this opinion, we started talking about, you know, well, are there more women in the meetings that we go to? Are there more men? And I guess we kind of decided that there were more, well, we said this, but there might be more men in, say, like an alcoholics group that are old timers.
And those are just our groups that we go to.
Those are, you know,
I noticed that it seems like there's more men with 15 plus years of sobriety. Now, there are plenty of women in our groups that have, you know, significant amount of recovery time. But it seems like there's more men than women, but I think, you know, it's just times are changing, really.
Sure. There's more availability, you know, like, and there's more connection. You know, YouTube has been a wonderful source for us. I was saying, YouTube has been an awesome source for us to spread a message, and it should go to show, with the amount of views that we've had in a short amount of time, that the word is spreading faster and faster. I don't remember a time in my childhood when I could get on to a platform, a free platform, and upload a popular message, you know, about hope and about sobriety that, you know, millions of people had access to. The message is spreading. Now, while the numbers are going up, you know, with addiction and using in excess alcohol and drugs, there's also a massive amount of people who recognize that this information could flip the script and become, you know, positive in, you know, fitness and in meditation and in, finance, which is huge. The message is spreading. And so don't consume yourself with numbers of like male versus female, because we've found that drugs and alcohol are non-discriminatory.
Yeah, they don't discriminate at all.
They don't care where you came from. They don't care if you came from the rich side of the river, you know, or whether or not you're black, white, yellow, red, blue, purple. They don't care. Drugs and alcohol, when used, you know, in the wrong way and by people like us who are not normal, they're divisive, you know, and they will use you to do the worst things imaginable. As far as the two of us go in our addiction, you know, we've both handled things kind of on the same page about just about everything. You know, we go to meetings, not as much as we used to. We both had different sponsors, so we talk to them in different ways, you know. So male versus female doesn't even matter, because to be honest, the foundation for us is just teamwork and development.
Yeah, there's a lot of teamwork with us. You know, we both know that we have to keep our recovery separate, but it can intertwine. And, you know, that's been a really cool experience for me, is having someone that is just as passionate about staying sober as I am.
Cool. It works, man.
Yeah.
It works when we work together, and it works when we just communicate. Communication is key, man. Don't isolate. Open up and find somebody similar to you to talk to. Anyway, that's all I got for this video. Thought it was fun.
Yeah.
We'll see you in the next one. Peace.